One of the stories that's recently broken in what's been a huge year for professional wrestling is Lee Moriarty being officially signed to AEW. After working a few matches on the company's YouTube exclusive shows, Tony Khan surprised Lee Moriarty in front of the live crowd with an offer to sign with the company. This is a pretty exciting time for Lee Moriarty to come into AEW. As one of the hottest prospects on the indies in the 2020s, he has built up a name for himself as an incredibly promising technician, and the hope is that he only grows and improves from here with access to one of the most talented rosters in the world today. But for those of you who might not be too familiar with Lee Moriarty's work, welcome. Today I'm going to show you 5 Lee Moriarty matches to help give you an idea of the kind of skill set that the man brings to the table. These are 5 matches that are free to watch on YouTube that'll help introduce you to this up-and-comer. So let's not delay any further, let's dig into this 5-match primer for all caps when you say his name, TAIGASTYLE, Lee Moriarty.
No one ever saw me cry until I left the party the other night. Do you remember all the things that he said to me that came out of his mouth automatically? That I'm so used to saying, I'm fine. And then something that you did to hurt me last year comes to me. Despite those times, one day I just wanna hear you say, I like you. What's up in you? What's up in you? What's up in you? What's up in you? Wish I could go back to lying beside you on the bed. Why'd you pick it up?
A big part of understanding Lee Moriarty's appeal and reputation is his series of matches against Alex Shelley. The 3 matches in AIW between late 2019 and early 2020 basically put Lee Moriarty on the map and helped skyrocket him to the point where he is in the industry today. This match from November 2019 is the first in the series. Immediately, you can tell why Lee caught the eye of the industry. In there with a veteran the caliber of Alex Shelley, he never really looks lost. He especially handles the intricate chain wrestling exchanges quite well and moves through them with a lot of precision and smoothness. Of course, a lot of that is Alex Shelley being an amazing wrestler, well used to working with younger wrestlers and helping them shine, but it certainly feels like there's something to Lee here more than just him being carried by an all-time great. After all, when Shelley switches gears to start bullying Lee instead of just wrestling him on an even playing field, it's pretty easy to root for him. He sells and bumps well, and he's instantly sympathetic and likable. Very difficult qualities to come across naturally in professional wrestling. It's pretty clear that Shelley takes a liking to him too. The finishing stretch sees Shelley give Lee a lot in terms of kickouts and big moments to help put over Lee's toughness for the crowd. For many people, this was the match that helped introduce Lee Moriarty to the larger world of professional wrestling, and it's as good a place as any to start learning about him. 3 3/4 stars for me. Here we see Lee Moriarty against someone who he'd go on to have a pretty significant rivalry with in Wheeler Yuta. This is also Lee Moriarty's first match in Beyond Wrestling, so you can basically draw a straight line between this match and his eventual IWTV Independent Wrestling Championship reign down the line. This is a really good match to watch to see Lee in an environment with someone I'd consider his contemporary on the independent scene. Where Alex Shelley can pretty much guide anyone through to a good match, left to his own devices and with someone of similar stature on the indie scene, Lee really impresses here against Wheeler Yuta. They do a lot of lovely chain wrestling, drawing from lucha and British influences in their exchanges. It's nice to see how both guys do it with a lot of comfort and confidence. There's a clear passion and competency on display for their craft here. This isn't a real complicated match. It's just a fantastic showcase of two young talents, and Lee makes a really good showing for himself in this debut. He and YUTA have some real natural chemistry, especially with the similarities they share as more technically minded young workers. They're clearly pulling from similar influences in this. Just watching them riff on their material, countering counters, and just keeping a rapid pace is exactly what you want from two young technicians in a setting like this. They'd go on to have a much more acclaimed and longer epic scale match in 2021 for the IWTV title, but this is a perfect place to start. For introducing one of his most significant contemporary rivals, and for being a compact showcase of his skills, this is a great one to watch for Lee. 3.5 stars for me. Here we have Lee in another match against a more experienced veteran, but with a different dynamic from the first Shelley match. For one, this is a great introduction to another side of Lee's personality as a wrestler. He's a little goofy, and he's funny. That's used to great effect here when he's doing some classic British-style comedy spots in the opening act to fluster and bamboozle Huckabee. Lee's performance in these moments is really great and natural. He comes across as extremely likable and charismatic, such that when the heat segment kicks in, we have more reason to emotionally invest in his success. Huckabee does a great job here too of working a mean and gritty heat segment, breaking down Lee's arm. The way Huckabee goes about it is a nice contrast to the silliness Lee brought in the opening half, and the change in tone perfectly puts over the seriousness that Huckabee is bringing to the dance. Lee sells the arm well, and for his comeback, he does his own arm work. This becomes a game of dueling limb work, with both guys putting over the damage to their respective arms quite well. There's a lot of fun details and cool technical work that permeates this entire match, and it's genuinely one of Lee's best matches of the past calendar year. There's a good old-fashioned heel-face dynamic here, with Lee wonderfully working as the fun-loving babyface with just enough talent and savvy to get one over on the veteran. 4 stars for this one. The 2020 Collective was an incredibly significant weekend for Lee Moriarty. He'd already gotten a lot of buzz through the year via his matches with Shelley, and his stock would only rise with a series of major bookings against top-level opponents during the Collective weekend. That stretch of matches starts right here at Southern Underground Pro's Swing of the Axe against Daniel Makabe. This is also a significant match for Daniel Makabe, as it's his first match back after months of COVID-imposed lockdown. Seeing these two technically minded workers being able to ply their trade is just what Lee needed to get his Collective run started on the right foot. The technical exchanges are, of course, great. As you'd expect from these two, they're filled with a lot of detail and thoughtfulness and meanness. It again turns into a piece of dueling limb work down the stretch, with Makabe going for the leg while Lee picks away at the arm. Beyond that though, this actually escalates into some pretty wild action down the stretch. Makabe does some big suplexes and a crazy Hurricane Rana off the top that all add a lot of intensity to the proceedings. Lee never looks lost, and even though he's up against a much more seasoned veteran, he definitely holds up his end of the bargain performance-wise. This is a great match, and you can watch it for free on YouTube, but do be warned that the YouTube copy has a weird audio problem where it sounds like someone was screen recording the footage on OBS Studio and left their mic on by accident. As a result, you get some weird ASMR of what sounds like some random guy's kitchen in the finishing stretch. Better off that you watch the official show feed on IWTV, but the YouTube copy will do in a pinch. Anyways, all that aside, great match. 4 stars for this one. Here we get Lee against another hot young up-and-coming technical wrestler in Daniel Garcia. These two have since become regular rivals, but this is their first match from the first round of the Limitless Wrestling 2020 Vacationland Cup. I'd say this might still also be the best match that these two have ever had with each other. Much like several of the other matches on this list, this is built around dueling limb work, with Lee going for Garcia's arm, while Garcia targets Lee's leg. What does separate this from the others is how naturally that limb work comes into play. Garcia seems to tweak his shoulder early while hitting some shoulder blocks on Lee. Lee's able to capitalize on that quickly in what I'd say is one of Lee's better control segments from the matches I've recommended. What makes this particular match stand out is that it might be Lee's most intense performance of the 5 here. This is the first time that I can say that his technical work feels really mean and almost violent without sacrificing anything from his babyface persona. These two have such an easy chemistry with each other, and they really feel like natural rivals against each other, especially with Lee working the babyface end of things and Garcia being more of a cowardly heel. This is probably one of Lee's best matches to date, and well worth the time to check out. Do yourself a favor and watch this one. 4.25 stars for me. Bonus recommendation, these two have a condensed version of this match on a recent episode of AEW Dark Elevation. That is also free on YouTube. Be sure to check that one out as well. Lee Moriarty is still a bit of a raw product. There's a lot of potential there, but it's notable that a lot of his best work so far comes against much more experienced veterans in the business. But the ceiling on this guy is pretty high, and I'm excited for the kind of opportunities he'll receive as a member of the AEW roster, surrounded by veteran talent that can only help him grow and sharpen his skills from here. Lee Moriarty is definitely a talent you should all keep your eyes on, because it certainly feels like we are watching the development of someone who could truly be great if just given the chance. Thank you everybody for watching. You guys have been absolutely wonderful. I want to send a huge shout out to my editor, SamTheVAMod. He does amazing work. Check him out on Twitter and on Twitch. All his links are in the description below. And of course, a massive shout out to all my supporters on Ko-fi. Thank you to my one-time supporters in Jason Toro, Elias De Leon, Thurman, Chris Harris, Juan C. Gonzalez, Zabster, T-Double, DeAndre Handy, and Ando Commando. And a huge thank you to my monthly Ko-fi supporters in James Draper, Captain Jack Heartless, Eddie Roberts, Jacob Dickens, Matt Brummett, Chick Fritz, Spiders in My Bed, Don Kiger, Arch Stanton, Timothy R. Buchner, In the Lane, Kid Kingpin, Joe Humphreys, Henry, Christopher Jackson, Saltine Daltine, Peter Vinnison, Dustin Faulkner, Edgar Molina, Four Pillars of Hell, Sean Emily, Mason Rollison, Craig Jones, and Jacob Vire. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for keeping the channel afloat. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, and have a good one.